Hi everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to do a really super simple alteration. It's taken me a little while to get this into a video because I had to work through some things in my head regarding the way it was going to affect the grain of fabric when you do the alteration. But I actually called the lady who taught me how to do men's alterations and asked her, because as long as I've worked with her, I've never seen her do the alteration this way, although it makes sense to me to do it like this. Because she didn't do it like this, I had to question my reasoning. So I called her and she even said, well, I don't know why we didn't do it like this. So I realized that the reason why we probably didn't do it like this is because people don't normally come into the shop to have this specific alteration done by itself. It's usually done when they want to shorten the sleeve, then they'll want to take up the width of the sleeve. So because I'm doing this just for the sole purpose of taking in the width of the suit jacket sleeve hem, this is how I figured we can do it. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing, and don't forget to hit that bell so you're notified when I upload more videos. Thank you very much, and let's get started. The first thing we're going to do on this is reach in and turn the sleeve inside out. And we're going to look for this seam right here. And you can tell which one it is because you can see the top stitching here. And we'll need to take that out. Okay, now you can tell right here it's attached, so we'll need to take this little tack out here and just remember where it's at. You might, you know what, let's chalk it so that I got a little chalk on the jacket and on the lining so that when we put it back together we'll just match up those chalk marks. And now we're going to unpick this stitching. Now, we're going to work from right here. We're going to unstitch this a little bit, and then that way you're separating your lining from your jacket sleeve. Okay, now that it's out, all you need to do is mark how much you want to take up. You can do that by pinning, or you can do that by chalking it. This is a 1/2 inch, and you're going to do the same on the side of the jacket. Now here you see another tack. This isn't really important as far as where it's tacked, just that it's either tacked or that you use like a stitch witchery so that when you fold it up it doesn't fall again. So you can use a stitch witchery in there. And here you're going to measure a 1/2 inch, the same as the lining. And then you'll need to decide how far up you need to take it. So here is your hem. So if you know that if you want to take it up through like the buttons, up all the way through the buttons, then from this seam to here is 3 inches. 4 would cover the vent. So from here up to the end of the vent is 4 inches. I'm going to go 4 inches from here, which would take it there. So you just need to decide, do you want the 1/2 inch taken up from the hem all the way to the vent, or do you want to just take it there and then immediately blend it back out? That is up to you. If I were you, I would do a basting stitch and then turn it right side out and try it on, or make sure you pinch it out and pin it before you start this, so that you'll know how far up you're going to taper and how much you're going to take off. So that's what we're going to start with. So from here, 4 inches is here. Measure the 1/2 inch in. And this right here will have to be blended right back to this opening, or I can close it up a little bit and then adjust the rest when I turn it back right side out. So I'm going to do it to here. I know the insides of these are really wrinkled. Okay, the only problem that may arise from doing this alteration this way is that I'm not sure how that is going to mess with the grain of fabric. This is a sleeve I was working on for something else. So I don't know if it's going to mess up the grain or not. I don't have anybody to try these on. So this is something you're going to have to think about. You might want to pinch it out first and then try moving around in your jacket. Raise your hands, put them out, put them forward to see how it feels. And if you can't tell that it's going to be weird or the grain be off, then I would go ahead and do it. But don't cut your fabric off, because if you have to reverse it, you need to keep that fabric in there so that you can reverse it. So I'm going to get my sewing machine set up and get this started. All right, you guys. If you want to chalk your line all the way down, you can. I am not going to. I am attempting to make this video as short as possible. And just so you know, I'm watching this edge here. So when you do yours, if you don't chalk it, figure out where your line is going. And I'm going to take that all the way to the first pin. And now I'm going to gradually taper till I get to the second pin. When you merge with the original seam, go ahead and backstitch a little bit. Now we're going to switch over to the lining. Now this side seam will not go all the way over like the other one because the seam allowance is different. And just so you see this right here, this is common. When in the lining, they don't always make it look really nice on the inside. They just kind of slap it together. So I marked out my 1/2 inch from my original seam here, the side seam, to my pin. So we just have to see where this edge here is going to match up, and it's right inside this throat plate here. It's where it's going to end up. Okay, now I'm going to start tapering. Okay, now that we have both the sleeve and the lining sewn, our new seam here and blending back in, go ahead and remove the original stitching from the end to where you blended it back here. And I'm going to do this off camera because it's boring, and by this time I'm sure you guys already know how to take out a stitch. Okay, I finished the alteration. I pressed open the seams on the jacket and the lining. So now I'm going to match them back up, and I am going to just start here and sew all the way over and make sure I overlap this seam here. From here, you'll just have to be careful and make sure that everything underneath stays out of the way. Now I'm going to line the edge of the lining up with the edge of the jacket and follow the previous stitching marks. Okay, now reach in and pull that through. And you'll fold it back where the original hemline was, and you see it's still there. Okay, so instead of using the stitch witchery, I am just going to use the machine. I'm going to pin this just so my hem doesn't get misaligned. I'm going to put this needle directly into the seam. It's kind of hard to see with this presser foot. And all it really needs is a couple steps forward and backwards a couple times. Okay, and you can see right there where I stitched in the ditch. What I didn't think about is that I went over to the ironing board and pressed the seam allowance open, which means my chalk marks are now gone. But you can tell by the creases here, that's where that was. So I am going to pin this in place and then reach in and just sew that seam allowance to the seam allowance of the jacket. I'm going to slide it over just because I want the stitching lines to match up. And I'm just going to stitch it right here. This is not going to the front of the jacket. It doesn't have to be like directly on the seam because no one's going to see it. It can just be off to the side in the seam allowance, which is where I'm going to put it. And this will just prevent the lining from slipping down and showing below the cuff. Now you just have to close it up, and we are going to, I'm going to pin it in place just so I don't have to keep messing with it. Now I'll just top stitch it, and I need to make sure that the upper and lower folds here are matched up. All right, and that's it. Now just clean up your threads and flip it to the right side, and if there are any creases in your sleeve, you'll want to press those out. That's the seam we just took up, so you might want to go back to the ironing board if it looks like this and just give that a really good press, and we're done.